Will Supergirl be a flop? Hi, if you're new here, my name is Sable and I talk about comics and all things nerdy. Supergirl lies into theaters at the end of this month, and this is one of the movies that I've talked about being excited for on my channel because I really like the actress Millie Alcock. And when I first saw the trailer for Supergirl, I thought it was going to be a very fun telling of Supergirl's story. Unfortunately, everything that DC has put out in regards to Supergirl since the original trailer has not been met with the best responses. In fact, I would say that a lot of it has been overwhelmingly negative and probably not for legitimate reasons. But I generally know from experience that initial reactions to comic book movies tend to dictate the way it's going to perform later on in the box office. Now, I'm still rooting for Supergirl, but I myself was a little bit disappointed with the way that they marketed this movie, the way the rollout has been. It's been, for the most part, pretty underwhelming. The most underwhelming part for me, and I've talked about this before, is the lack of Lobo being marketed as the villain. I know that he's not technically the villain of this movie, even though I said I think he should be. But I just don't think that the way Lobo is being presented to us is making me excited to see his character, even though I feel like he could and should be one of the draws of the movie. But I think the biggest complaint against Supergirl has been and will continue to be the characterization of Kara Zor-El. Supergirl is one of those characters that I think a lot of people know by name, but they really don't know much about her. They don't know much about her history. The general public doesn't really know much about her personality. And I think James Gunn was going to use that lack of knowledge to give her a fresh, new characterization for the audience to immediately become familiar with who she is. I myself have felt like writers struggled with Supergirl even in the comics, but I do know that the character that James Gunn is showing us is not a one for one adaptation of who she is in the comics. If anything, this Supergirl is giving more of Marvel's Jessica Jones's type of character, a laid back, chill kind of girl who really kind of doesn't want to fight for the superhero type reasons, who's probably a little bit morally ambiguous and just doesn't want to really play the hero role that Superman plays. Now, this is not too inaccurate. Comic book Supergirl has some of these characteristics. However, in today's media climate, these chill, laid back girl type of characters who wear combat boots and listen to rock music have unfortunately fallen under the umbrella of girl bosses or girls that don't need a man type characters, which could be a video of itself. But I do think that it's going to hurt the way people perceive this Supergirl. Already, I see people complaining about the way that she interacts with Superman, which I will say, yes, I do actually think that in the trailer where we see Supergirl and Superman meet should be a more emotionally dense moment. And instead, they went for the more funny route. And I didn't particularly care for that. But I think that's the tone that's being set for the movie, similar to what Guardians of the Galaxy was like. But unfortunately, Superman and Supergirl are not Guardians of the Galaxy. There's so much more history, so much more emotional depth that should be explored in this movie that I'm just not getting from the trailer. I'm not saying it's not going to be, but the movie is giving a more buddy cop type action movie as opposed to a fresh take of an alien coming to Earth and being associated with this super identity that she did not ask for herself. There's so much to explore there that I feel like it's not going to hit as hard as it should. The last red flag I had with this movie was that 25 minutes have been cut from the original runtime. Now, I'm okay with shorter movies. In fact, I think that we have lost the recipes for great 90-minute movies. Those are the movies that we've built so much of cinema on. In today's world, we feel like longer means better. I completely disagree with that. So I was actually okay with hearing that 25 minutes of the movie was cut out, but it makes me scared for how that pacing is going to register once we watch it. Because there's a difference between cutting something while you're filming a movie as opposed to cutting something in post. Usually certain plot lines don't get resolved or whole characters go through development that you don't see because a lot of it gets cut out. I'm thinking of the director's cut of the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, which is actually a whole different movie once you watch it in its entirety. This is why Snyder fans were clamoring for the Snyder cut of the film because there's so much that you miss when key details get cut out. I don't know how this is going to affect Supergirl's pacing at the end of the day, but I don't think that it's a good sign that after screenings, most people were saying time needs to be cut. And I'm afraid that the time that got cut means that we're going to get a movie that does not flow very naturally. I feel like there's going to be parts where we can tell something more was supposed to happen, but it got cut on the editing room floor. All in all, like I said, I was looking forward to this movie and I'm going to continue looking forward to it. There's a lot of writing on this movie in terms of how we look at Gunn's DC universe and what he's building. There's already a tall order that he has to fill, and a lot of people are already not very confident that he will fill it. I'm already a little bit nervous, but I'm going in with the 50-50 mindset, hoping to be blown away, but lowering my expectations just a little bit. If this does well, great for DC, great for Gunn. If not, then we might have to start having some different kinds of conversations. But let me know what you think.